Hey guys, LMN here for another late night deck profile, and as you can see from the thumbnail, we are finally looking at blue-green 1 year war rush. Originally, I just called this blue-green Xeon rush, but lately the term for this deck has switched over to just 1 year war rush. So I actually kind of like that name a little bit more because it actually distinguishes it away from Xeon Rush, which most of the time I see is usually red green. So it's cool that this actually got its own like name because it does use both stuff from specifically Xeon, but also Earth Federation, specifically 1 year war stuff like the Gundam and the G Fighter, and then some builds actually even run the gun cannon. So it's really cool that this deck has actually been making waves in the meta currently. Surprisingly, after testing it out, especially against like my friend's wing deck, I've tested against my own new type deck. I've tested against my own personal wing deck. I've also tested it against the like pure mono blue version. Well, almost pure blue, but there's like two versions. It's basically Federation Rush. I've tested against that, and this deck actually has ways to counter it as well because of the fact that it runs both green and blue. It has access to all the high maneuver stuff that the Xeon, specifically Char stuff has, but also the fact is that you also have amuro and you have actually G Fighter to grant it high maneuver and rest a blocker at the same time. So really, really cool. Like this deck has a lot of ways to get around certain decks, though at the same time it does have weaknesses just like every other deck. For those that actually have played rush decks, normally you want to win by turn 5 or 6, unless you have like a really high level guy like a Sanaju or a Big Zam or something else. It's kind of hard to counter their really high big bodies, and especially like against wing, you really have a rough time once you hit that threshold. But if you can close it out by 6, you basically win the game at that point. But yeah, no. Let's get into the deck so I can show you what I'm talking about. So for level 1s, this being blue-green, of course we're running the 4 DOPS. This lets us look at the top of our deck. Specifically, we get to just take one and then look at it, and then if we like it, we can place it back, but if not, we can bottom deck it. This actually helps us cycle our deck a little bit faster, which can help us get like certain pieces. Like usually I use it to look, and then if it's Char, and I have both Char Zaku and some other stuff in my hand, I usually go, okay, cool, I'll keep it. Or in the other case, if you have Gundam in your hand, but you need Amuro, and you see that Amuro is the next card, you keep it, and then next turn you get to swing in and do some damage. But yeah, 4 DOPS is really solid. It is only a 1/1, but you know, it's a good searcher, so it's good to have in the deck. Because I do not have 4 Zaku 1s, I do run 1 Pisces. Pisces is just a really good 1/1, and of course it's blue, so it's easy to fit into the deck. Also, it is a 1/2, so it can occasionally take hits from weaker units. It usually goes down normally in 1 hit, but it's just there to kind of like help with low cost plays. Then we also have, as I mentioned, I only have 3 Zaku 1s, specifically from the starter. This guy's still really good. He's also a 1/2, so usually you're trading into really small units, but also chipping into their shields, especially if you clear it with like something at like Sharp Zaku or the Zaku 2 that boosts itself basically to basically punch through, and then this kind of helps you deal a little bit more damage. Usually your opponent's going to knock this out, but then that's the thing is that they have to commit to swinging into this and taking a damage, which can actually help you deal with them later on the next turn. Then we also have for level 2s, we go for 4 Zakus. This card is really crazy. It's honestly one of the best cards in the deck currently, mainly because of the fact that its ability, for those that already saw my Xeon Rush deck or just don't know what this card does yet because they just got into the game, which honestly isn't really that strange because there are a lot of new people getting in. This card is really good. It is literally one of the best Xeon cards next to Char's cards, essentially, because on attack, it boosts itself to 3, so it automatically knocks out an EX base if there are no blockers. And of course, being a 3/2 at that point, you can knock out a lot of blockers, except for Lifriff, because Lifriff would then be left at 1 health, which you can counter next turn with a specific blue unit, so pretty solid. But yeah, you gotta run for this guy. This guy is like really good opening hand. Then we run 4 of the level 2 Zaku 2 from set 1. This guy is just a really good 2/2, and of course he's a 2/1, so he's going to be really cheap to summon, especially if you go second. This guy is super dirt cheap to summon, and you can just start chipping at their base or chipping into their units, so really cool. You gotta run 4 of this. Then, of course, as I mentioned, we do have a blue unit to deal with anything that's already weakened from either of our Zakus. We have the gun tank from set 1. I have my beta one specifically. This guy is really a clutch because not only are you putting an extra body on the field, but you're also doing 1 damage to arrest a unit. So if you force them into trading with one of these or one of these, they basically already either have only 1 health or maybe 2 health left, and this helps chip just enough so you can knock them out. Then we go to level 3s and we run 4 Char Zaku. Char Zaku is honestly as I mentioned, he's one of the best cards in the deck alongside the other Zaku 2. Char Zaku 2 is really sick because when it gets destroyed, you get to look at the top 3 cards of your deck and you get to add a Xeon unit. You do miss on pilots and commands, but he can search out a unit, and with how many units you're running in this deck, you usually maybe miss, I would say maybe like 10% of the time, but 90% of the time you're not going to be missing and you're going to be getting that extra card to basically set up for next turn. Then we run 4 of the Sharzaku from set 1 because when this is paired with a pilot and when it's destroyed at the same time, like basically it has to be destroyed with a pilot, but if it does, you get to spawn a Sharzaku 2 token. And of course, with Char underneath it, it's going to be a 5/3, so they kind of have to commit like a pretty decent attack to take him out and not, suffer damage. Yeah, blue-white can take less damage, but they're still taking 3 damage, which could potentially put them in danger from getting knocked out by one of your small units next turn. So you gotta run 4 of this. This guy is just really strong. Then the other level 3s we run are 2G fighters because this can link with any white-based trait pilot. Specifically, you do it with amuro. And you can basically tap something and you give something high maneuver, specifically a white-based trait. Um, they get high maneuver, so basically you can give the Gundam specifically high maneuver on play with this, which is really cool because you can if you have enough memory, if you have at least 5, you can potentially go into Gundam, or actually no, sorry, 6. On turn 6, you can potentially do this combo where you basically play Gundam, you equip Armro, you rest their blocker, and then you basically, and if they still have a blocker, you play this for 2 cost and you give it high maneuver and it goes for game basically. So really cool. I know some builds are running 3, but for me, 2 is the best because you're mainly using it on either the gun tank or the Armoro, but the thing is that you're not always going to have the gun tank or the Gundam, so I opt to run 2, so then that way if I see it, I see it. If not, I still have Char to deal with the blockers because it has high maneuver by default. Then we run 2 Goose because at level 3, having this, you basically get to put on a bit of aggression, and it actually forces them to have to get rid of the token, which is really cool. They have to commit to getting rid of it, and if they don't have enough blockers next turn, you basically just start swinging really hard. We then go to level 4s and we run only 2 units, specifically the Gundam. Gundam is just still one of the best blue units. It's why almost every blue deck tries to incorporate it because it's just so good. The fact that it has repair 2, it also boosts the field by 1 for as long as it's paired with a pilot. So basically it makes itself, especially with Armoro, it becomes a 6/5, so they have to deal with this. And the fact that it can heal at the end of the turn is really good. Then we have 3 Char's Jelgu. This guy is honestly like basically your win condition because most of the time you'll have like swung into all their security and then they just lay down like 4 blockers and you're like, well, how am I going to get past this? Well, this guy solves your problem. You play it for 4, you activate his effect, you discard a Xeon unit, which is basically like 50, well, actually more than that. It's more like 70% of your deck. So then you go, okay, cool. I'll discard, say, the Zaku 2 or the DOP or maybe even the Char Zaku that makes a token. And then I equip immediately from the trash the Char that you specifically knocked out with my other unit. Oh, look, now he has high maneuver. He's also linked, and now he can attack this turn. Okay, swing for game. So this guy is basically your win condition along with Gundam because Gundam can basically suspend blockers for you. With this guy, he just gains high maneuver and he just goes for game, and you can knock out stuff with it too, so pretty cool. Then for pilots, we run, of course, the 4 Armoros because we're running blue in this, and all of them have white-based trait. So with this, they basically gain a lot more value. And of course, as I mentioned, he can suspend anything with 5 or less HP, which is a lot of units. Even most blockers can't really get that big unless they have a pilot equipped. So if they don't, then they basically get rested, which really sucks for them, but not for you. Then we run 4 Char Asnables because this guy grants high maneuver to basically any unit that it links with, specifically his own red suits. If you equip it onto a Zaku, you mainly just boost it, and that's about it. You mainly get that AP +1. The link is specifically for the high maneuver, but you usually want to use him on the red Zaku. You want to just use the rest to just chip. Then for commands, we only run one, and that's specifically 2 show resolves. This card is just mainly for late game, specifically around like turn 5, where you basically have less cards at that point, maybe 2. So by playing this, you basically get to gain back 2 more cards in the process. So this is really solid for the deck. It's just not great early game, sadly, but it is one of the best draw cards, so it's good to have it. For bases, we only run one, and that's 3 Fommels. Fommel's just really crazy, especially if you play it on your turn, because then you get a Char token off of that, and in conjunction with this, you can make 2 Char's tokens, and then they have to address your board at that point. And of course, it is pretty easy to summon because it's only a level 3, and it only costs 2, so really, really, really cheap. And as you can notice, most of the deck literally doesn't go beyond level 4, so after level 4, you're basically just kind of like going for game at that point. Like as I said, turn 5 or 6 is usually when you're supposed to win. If you go into late game, there is a way to get around stuff, especially if you haven't like lost all your Jelgogs. But aside from that, that's the main weakness, is that it just can't do the late game. It can do the early and the mid game. It can do the early game really well, but mid game it does okay, and then late game it struggles because you basically run out of resources unless you draw this card. So it's really rough. But if you manage to do it by turn 5 or 6, you basically just win the game at that point. And yeah, it's a really fun deck, honestly. Like, I've been testing it for the last like 2-3 weeks, and it feels really good. I switched over from red green because of the lack of just ways to get around certain effects. I know that it's very aggressive. I know that it chips really well, but at the same time, I like running blue because blue, you get access to gun tank, you get access to Gundam, you get access to amuro. Literally 2 of the best units and pilots. So really, really strong. And of course with the G fighter, it makes it the gun tank and Gundam even more valuable than it should be. And yeah, no, it's just really solid. Like, the deck feels really fun to play. Maybe this, most likely, this deck will be getting more support in set 2. So once we get more support, this deck might evolve even further and go even beyond how it's the fact that it's still topping. But hopefully, it starts getting better with this deck. But so far, it's very fun. As I mentioned, it's great. It's very enjoyable. It's fun to at least use. Same with like currently my main 2 decks is this and Wing, and both are green based, and they both feel pretty decent. But that's for another time. But yeah, yeah, that's basically the deck. As usual, I put this out so that you guys have a kind of like a template to work off of, especially because this is my personal build. I saw a bunch of these topping, and I just kind of took the ideas and just went, okay, cool. Can I modify it to fit how I want specifically? And in my case, I wanted to run 2 show resolves. A lot of builds do not run this, which is really weird. They run like stuff like siege ploys and like intercept orders and like fortress defense, like all the other ones, or even citizens take a stand, which basically boosts everything. But I like having these for draw power, so I opted for this. And of course, a lot, as I mentioned, run more G fighters, but I feel 2 is already pretty solid. It already feels comfortable enough that I don't really always need it, especially with armor on the deck, but sometimes you do need it, and it does come in clutch at certain moments. And of course, as I mentioned, I don't have enough Zaku ones, so I have to run Pisces, but as you guys know, I'm a huge fan of Wing, so I love seeing Oz suits in my deck, especially Pisces, because I always thought it was a really cool suit. They just never made a model kit of it, so yeah. But as usual, like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you thought of this deck profile, and I'll see you guys next time.